Hello everyone, welcome back to our video series. My name is Courtney Cook. I'm a licensed board certified genetic counselor and I'm the founder of Cook Genetics Assessment and Testing, which is located in Effingham, Illinois. We are doing this video series for people to find out, why should I come and have a genetic counseling appointment, or why do I need genetic testing? These videos are really here to talk about who needs genetic counseling and who needs genetic testing. So we focus on hereditary cancer predispositions at Cook Genetics, so that's what we're starting with here in these videos. We've talked about a lot of different cancer types already, and you might see some overlap throughout our videos where we talk about different cancers in multiple videos, but we really try to focus on one cancer per video. So this video is going to focus on prostate cancer. So for the men in our crowd that are listening and watching, you know, a lot of times we think about genetic testing being more of like a female thing, but it's really not. Guys have DNA too. So whenever we are talking about cancer types, prostate cancer, this is a guys only thing. So men, whenever we are thinking about prostate cancer diagnoses, this video is for you. Girls, if you've got a family history of men with prostate cancer in your family, this will still apply to you. Or guys, family history of prostate cancer, it applies to you. So let's just get started with criteria of who should have genetic counseling and genetic testing based on prostate cancer. And then at the end, we'll talk about our contact information and how to go about getting a hold of us or booking an appointment. So let's just start at the top. So first of all, prostate cancer in men is relatively common. So it occurs in maybe like 10% of men. So it's not a super rare type of cancer. A lot of the times you hear men getting diagnosed with a prostate cancer and maybe it really doesn't require much treatment. Or, you know, maybe they're diagnosed and they live forever still, like they don't really need to do a whole lot to treat that prostate cancer, and they might die of other natural causes and it was not their prostate cancer. So whenever we think about genetic testing and we're concerned about hereditary prostate cancer, this more gears towards individuals who have had a more advanced prostate cancer, like a really high grade prostate cancer or a prostate cancer that spread to other parts of the body, things like that. So we will go through these criteria and kind of explain more in detail of what we mean by more advanced. So our first criteria is for a man who has had metastatic prostate cancer at any age. So this means that the prostate cancer spread to other parts of the body. Maybe it spread to the liver, maybe it spread to the bones. So anybody whose prostate cancer was aggressive enough to spread, that's a good reason for that person to have genetic testing. Now, if that person has passed away, then their first degree relatives or second degree relatives might consider doing some genetic testing. So for example, if you are a 40-year-old female and you obviously don't have a prostate, but maybe your father passed away of metastatic prostate cancer, then maybe genetic testing is something that is indicated for you. So even though you don't have a prostate, if you're a female, these genes can increase the risk of multiple types of cancer. So there could still be some good information for you, even if you don't have a prostate yourself. So that's our first criteria, is that metastatic prostate cancer. The next criteria is what we call high-grade prostate cancer and having Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. So let's break this down a little bit. So whenever somebody gets diagnosed with a prostate cancer, their prostate cancer is given a Gleason score. So that's G-L-E-A-S-O-N, Gleason score. So your Gleason score is essentially whenever the doctor looks at the prostate cancer underneath the microscope and ranks it 1 through 10. So you might see it written as 3 plus 3 equals 6. So your Gleason score is 6. Or 3 plus 4 equals 7. So then your Gleason score would be 7. So anybody who has had more of a high-grade prostate cancer, we draw that line at 7. So anybody that's had a Gleason score of 7 or higher, so 7, 8, 9, 10, and then they're also of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, those people should get genetic testing. So if you recall from our earlier videos, Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, these are people that have this certain ethnic group. So Ashkenazi Jews are typically your European Jews. These individuals tend to have a higher chance of having a genetic change that could increase their risk of cancer. And that's because we've found what we call some founder mutations in that Ashkenazi Jewish population that have just been passed around within that population over the millions of years. So it's just been a smaller population, and those individuals are more likely to have those changes. So if you have a high-grade prostate cancer and you have Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, then that's a good reason for you to get genetic testing. Same thing for family members. So if you have not had prostate cancer yourself, you're a guy or a girl, and you have Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry on your mother's side of the family, and grandpa on that side had prostate cancer that was high grade, maybe he passed away of it, then that's a good reason for you yourself to get genetic testing as well, okay? Now our next criteria is someone who has had a high grade prostate cancer, so that Gleason score of 7 or higher, and then they've also had a close relative who has had breast cancer under the age of 50. So say you have had prostate cancer yourself, it's high grade, maybe your Gleason score is 8, and then you had a close relative, like a sister, diagnosed with breast cancer at age 40. So we think that you guys should have some genetic testing based on that high grade prostate cancer and that young breast cancer. And then of course, first or second degree relatives of those individuals should consider genetic testing if the people with cancer themselves have passed away or they're not interested in testing. So this is a good time to remind everyone who a first degree relative and second degree relative is. So your first degree relatives, parents, siblings, and children. Your second degree relatives are one step out. So that would be your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews, grandchildren, anybody in that close family. So if you have close family members who have been diagnosed with a high-grade prostate cancer and a young breast cancer under the age 50 or younger, maybe you should consider getting genetic testing yourself. So remember, these relatives who have had cancer have to be on the same side of the family. So it doesn't count if you've got a prostate cancer on your dad's side of the family and a breast cancer on your mom's side. These relatives have to be on the same side of the family. So maybe, for example, you are a 35-year-old woman and you've never had cancer, but maybe your dad had a high-grade prostate cancer and his sister, so your aunt on your dad's side, had breast cancer at 35. Then we've got a young breast cancer and a high-grade prostate cancer. If they've both passed away or they're not interested in testing, then you should consider doing genetic counseling and genetic testing. So our next criteria is if someone has had a high-grade prostate cancer, so that Gleason score of at least 7 or higher at any age, and then they have a close relative who have had a more rare type of cancer, which is one of the following. So an ovarian cancer, a pancreatic cancer, or a metastatic prostate cancer. So we've got one person who's had a high-grade prostate cancer, like a Gleason score of 7 or higher, and then they have a close relative who's had either ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, or metastatic prostate cancer. Those individuals should consider getting genetic testing. So here's another example. Say that you have never had cancer yourself, but on your mother's side of the family, maybe your uncle on your mom's side had a high-grade prostate cancer and your grandmother had an ovarian cancer. That's two of those, high-grade or more rare types of cancers on one side of the family. And if those people are no longer interested in testing or they've passed away, then maybe you should undergo genetic testing yourself. Our next criteria then would be that if one single person has had any sort of tumor profiling done and their tumor genetic testing makes us think that maybe there's a higher risk of this person having some sort of genetic condition that increased their risk to develop prostate cancer. This gets more complicated, so we've talked about tumor genetic testing in our previous videos as well. Nowadays, most people who are diagnosed with a cancer do end up getting some sort of tumor genetic testing. We call it tumor genomic testing usually. So really talk to your doctor about this. See if you did have any tumor genomic testing to see what your tumor looked like. Usually this is for targeted chemotherapy options. And if your doctor sees anything on that tumor genomic test that they're concerned about, could increase, maybe your risk of having a genetic predisposition to develop cancer, then that would be a reason for you to come get tested. So that's more complicated, and we really want to talk with your doctor about that as opposed to family history type stuff. So if there's been any tumor genetic testing, ask your doctor if there's a reason based on your tumor profile that you should have genetic testing with a genetic counselor. Otherwise, if you've had a personal history of one of these high-grade or metastatic prostate cancers and family history of any of these cancers that we talked about, then genetic testing is for you. Or of course, if any of this stuff is going on in your first-degree relatives or your second-degree relatives, and those people are no longer available to be tested, then you should consider genetic counseling and testing as well. So that is it for our hereditary prostate cancer video. We'd really like you to visit our website. It's www.cookgenetics.com. You can book appointments there. There's other frequently asked questions and information about genetic counseling and genetic testing. So check out our website. And of course, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can email us. Our email is courtneycook@cookgenetics.com. Let us know if you have any questions about this. Otherwise, you can book an appointment online, and we hope to see you soon.